Hey everybody, welcome to Fragrance Explorer. My name's Robert and today we're taking a look at Rasasi Hawas for him. So let's get started. Hawas for him is a masculine aromatic aquatic fragrance introduced in 2015 from the house of Rasasi. Let's take a look at the note breakdown. In the top we have apple, bergamot, lemon, cinnamon, pear, and pineapple. In the mid, we have orange blossom, a synthetic watery note, cardamom, plum, melon, and violet. And in the base, we have ambergris, patchouli, amberwood, sandalwood, cedarwood, and musk. So this was a blind buy for me, and I really wasn't expecting this fragrance to be as good as it is. The name Hawas, loosely translated, means uncontrollable desire. And even though that's marketing speak, I really do think it's fitting for this fragrance. So this is probably the fruitiest fragrance that I own, and the fruit notes that Rasasi has chosen to put in the opening of this fragrance all have kind of this juicy, wet, mouth-watering inducing vibe. We get the standard citrus blends that are in the top of a lot of fragrances, including bergamot and lemon, and even apple. Those notes are there, but they also add some less common notes, and I'm not saying that they're uncommon, but some less common notes having pineapple and pear added into that mix. And the pineapple and pear give us some additional sweetness and kind of a juicy wetness to them as well, but that pineapple note kind of has a slightly metallic vibe that it adds to it. In addition, we get a little bit of cinnamon in the top that adds some spice to that opening that really makes it very catching on the opening. I mean, it really is kind of an attention-grabbing opening with all of those fruit notes and then a little bit of spice on top. It's a very pleasing kind of delicious opening that this fragrance has. So the mid really gives us some more fruity notes with melon and plum. And I don't have a lot of fragrances that have, in fact, I don't think I have any other fragrances. I've got quite a few fragrances in my collection, but I don't think I have any other fragrances that have melon and plum as notes. And it's really kind of unique. It's a nice addition to have some variation in sort of the fruity sweet fragrances that I do own. This does add some nice variation. Now that melon and the plum have a sweet, watery juiciness to them that are adding to that melange of fruits that were in the opening. But the nice thing about the mid is that we also get two floral notes that are added into the mid that they're sweet floral notes. You get a white floral note with orange blossom, and then you also get kind of a blue floral note with violet. And the blue floral note that's added in there into the mid gives a little bit of balance because it has kind of a powdery dryness that pairs up nicely, gives us some contrast against all of those wet notes that we've had. And, we do have the synthetic aquatic note in the mid there as well. So it's a nice contrast to have that powdery violet note in the mid. So in the base, we get the typical ambergris note that we're so familiar with a lot of aquatic fragrances. So it gives us kind of that wet stone vibe, kind of the mineral, salty, musky vibe into the base. But the nice part of the base of this and the dry down is that we kind of get some woody notes that give this more of a masculine, mature dry down that kind of is in contrast to that youthful, exuberant, fruity opening that would kind of make this be more of a youth fragrance. With the wood in the base, as you get into the dry down, it does make it more fitting for a mature audience, a more mature masculine audience. And so the wood notes are very, very nice in the dry down. We get amberwood, which is a synthetic fixative that's used to try to make the fragrance last a little bit longer. And it's got some undertones that are kind of like a wood resin smell and maybe even a little bit of vanilla and tonka bean kind of esque hints that are in there with the amberwood. But then we also get the sandalwood note that's in there that kind of gives a smooth, creamy, typical of an oriental fragrance. You'd have some sandalwood in there, and then you get a little bit of the cedar, which gives us the kind of the calming, mature wood that you'd find in more masculine fragrances. And cedar's got that very distinctive naphthalene, a bit of naphthalene smell to it that's a little bit like tar. And so that's all there in the base, and it does balance the fragrance out a lot, because there's a lot of sweet fruitiness in the opening, and that dry down going into kind of a woody base really does make this kind of an all audience fragrance, in that it's suitable for a more mature masculine audience. And so I really appreciate the fact that they put that woodiness in the base that allows this to be worn by a more, an older man, a more mature man, and it's not just specifically a youth fragrance. So I like this fragrance a lot, and I think you guys are going to like it as well. So Hawas is presented in a clear, understated glass flagon, and it really is in contrast, kind of stark contrast to that brash, energetic, youthful, fruity opening that we get in this fragrance. But it does sort of convey the fact that we dry down to those woody undertones that are in the base, that are much more reserved, much more mature, and kind of understated. And so this kind of understated, elegant, clear flagon really is fitting for that. You get a nice heavy, really heavy metallic stopper that really feels high quality, and it's got like a serpent that's kind of wrapped around the top of the stopper. And it provides, nice purchase for your hands. It gives a good grip on that stopper when you're trying to pop it off, because the stopper does hold very well. It locks into place with a nice tactile click, and it does hold very well. So you can support the bottle from the stopper. I don't recommend that you do that, so I just showed you that on the video, but I don't recommend picking up any bottle of fragrance by its stopper. But this one does attach very securely to the top. It doesn't thread on or anything, but it does snap in with a nice tactile click. The atomizer provides nice, nice even droplet distribution, good control. It's a nice fine distribution pattern that you get out of the droplets. And so far I haven't had any issues with it dribbling out a stream rather than giving me a well-controlled mist. The front of the box has a charcoal gray matte finish, so the entire box has that matte gray finish, and it's got this raised snakeskin textured frame that surrounds the Hawas for Him logo. And then the back of the box bears the Rasasi signature and the ingredient list. On the bottom of the flap we get a batch number and the date of manufacture. And curiously, we don't get a matching batch number on the sticker that's found on the bottom of the bottle. You won't find Rasasi in the checkfresh.com database. So I'm not sure why that is. I've told you guys in the past to use the checkfresh.com website to look for authenticity of fragrances. I believe that this is an authentic fragrance. I just think that they don't register with CheckFresh. So let's talk about performance a little bit. I did a little bit of research on Fragrantica before I started wearing this to work, because I wanted to get some idea for how the performance was going to be. And most voters on Fragrantica were saying that this had heavy sillage, it was long lasting, and that's kind of what I was expecting, but my experience was not quite that good. So as I wore it this week, I noticed that I was getting, maybe a couple of hours of performance where I could really smell it before I was refreshing. And I thought, well, maybe I'm giving myself olfactory fatigue. And so I did a little, not really a controlled experiment, but I did experiment at the house before writing the review. I applied the fragrance to my arm, and I gave my wife, let her smell it so that she knew what the fragrance smelled like. And then I went in a separate part of the house, a completely separate room with the door closed, and I waited for about a half an hour. And then when I came back out, I asked her to let me know when she could actually smell the fragrance as I walked towards her. So I got closer and closer and closer to her. She was not able to smell the fragrance until I was probably holding my arm maybe 2 or 3 inches from her nose. And so I thought that it was olfactory fatigue on my part, but it appears that, now maybe it's just the batch that I got, but I did not get as good of a performance out of this as voters on Fragrantica were kind of saying. So if you get a different batch, you may get better performance than I did. So right now this is running about $50 US if you look at Amazon.com or FragranceNet.com. I think I picked mine up right at $47, $48. And so it fluctuates a little bit around the $50 mark. You find it $50 to $55 here in the United States. But that's what it's going for a 100 milliliter, 3.3 milliliter, or 3.3 fluid ounce bottle. So thanks for joining this week. I'm really sorry that the review is coming out late, but I'm producing a lot of other content for our church and our worship group because with the coronavirus and the social distancing that we're practicing, we're not able to meet regularly. So I'm trying to help get some other content out there so that we can have some presence online. And so it's kind of slowing down the production of my fragrance reviews. But I hope you guys will like the videos and subscribe, click on the bell so that you get notified when I do put new content out there, since I'm kind of off schedule right now. And I do apologize for that, but I'll put a link to in the description box of some of that other content that I'm producing if you want to take a look at that and you're interested in what it looks like. I will put a link down below. But I do appreciate you guys hanging with me and watching the reviews, and I appreciate all the comments and the feedback that we're getting on the different videos and the fragrances, because I do like to engage with you guys on what you think of the fragrances. I like this one a lot, and I hope that maybe my experience with the performance is kind of an oddball performance. I like to know how yours performs. If you own Rasasi Hawas and you like it a lot, and you've got maybe an older batch or maybe a different batch than the September 2019 batch that I have, let me know how yours performs in the comments, because I'm curious, because I do like the fragrance blend a lot, and I'm hoping that I do just kind of have an oddball batch. But anyway, I hope you guys like the review and that you're staying safe, and that we'll see you again next time.